Shalom, first and foremost, I want to give all praise, glory, and honor to Yahweh Shem Yahushai B'Shem Kadash. Double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and peace and salutations to all the brothers out there teaching the truth in sincerity and faith. Shalom to all you sincere listeners and the hopeful elect, the 1/3 of the nation of Israel scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. You so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans, you are the Hebrew Israelites. Right? And you so-called white people scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. The so-called Jew, the tribe of Amalek, you are the red Hebrew Edomite. Right? And I'm going to do this video entitled WW3, Jacob versus Esau. Okay, because what's happening in Venezuela is what's about to be is a microcosm of World War III. Okay, it says here, this is a story of Venezuela in black and white. The so-called popular uprising is at its heart a furious backlash of the whiter and wealthier Venezuelans against their replacement by the larger mestizo, mixed race poor. Right? So I'm going to read this article and play a video for you brothers as well, and sisters, and all the sincere listeners out there. This is from gregpalas.com. In Venezuela, white supremacy is a key to Trump's coup. On January 23rd, right after a phone call from Donald Trump, Juan Guaido, former Speaker of Venezuela's National Assembly, declared himself president. No voting. When you have official recognition from the Donald, who needs elections? I can explain what's going on in Venezuela in 3 photos. First, we have Juan Guaido, self-proclaimed and Trump-proclaimed president of the nation, with his wife and child. A photo prominently placed in the New York Times. See that right there? She's a straight-up Edomite. Next, the class photo of Guaido's party members in the National Assembly, white as snow. They all look like a bunch of Edomites. Especially when compared to their political opposites in the third photo, the Congress members who support the elected president, Nicolas Maduro. The Maduro supporters are nearly all of a darker hue. There's a bunch of Jakes up in there, man. Straight up. This is the story of Venezuela, black and white. Story not told in the New York Times. This year's so-called popular uprising has heart a furious backlash of the whiter and wealthier Venezuelans against the mestizo poor. 4 centuries of white supremacy in Venezuela, or red Hebrew Edomite supremacy in Venezuela by those who identify their ancestors as European, came to an end with the 1998 election of Hugo Chavez, who won the overwhelming support of the mestizo majority. This turn away from white supremacy continues under Maduro, Chavez's chosen successor. Yeah, so you Edomites, you've been controlling that country, Venezuela, all right? Those who identify their ancestors as European. So you Edomites, you red Hebrew Edomites, all right, you lost when Hugo Chavez came into power. He started putting Israel, in other words, the mestizo, the poor people, he started giving them rights, started educating them, okay, and taking the oil, which you Edomites were making the most money off of, keeping within yourselves, he started distributing that to the poor people, right? In my interviews with Chavez for BBC beginning 2002, he talked with humor about the fury of a white ruling class finding itself displaced by dark-skinned by a dark-skinned man who is visibly negro e indio, a label he wore loudly and proudly. Yeah, that's the worst thing you could be. Black and Indian, man. That's real spiritual, man. Okay, because those are the tribes. He's pretty much, Chavez was an Israelite, and he wore it proudly. Because he went to the UN Assembly, he was cursing out Esau, calling him the devil. All right, he actually called George W. Bush the devil to his face. I'm not trying to big the guy up. He's through. He's dead. The Most High took him out. But he was a part of that, he was like a Gaddafi, cursing out Esau. And what happened to him? The Most High took him out. And he was an Israelite, believe it or not. All right. Why did the poor love Chavez? And love is not too strong a word, as even the U.S. CIA's surprising honest fact book states. Social investment in Venezuela during the Chavez administration reduced poverty nearly 50% in 1999. That about 27% in 2011 increased school enrollment, substantially decreased infant and child mortality, and improved access to potable water and sanitation through social investment. Yeah, because you Edomites out there, you red Hebrew Edomites living out there in Venezuela were just straight up leeches and welfare babies, man. Right, you get all the money. You keep it all within yourselves for your schools, for your jobs. You got all these poor people cleaning up your shit. They can't even have a pot to shit it themselves, man. But their life is to wake up in the village and go wipe your ass. But that's all different now, man. Okay? And it started with Chavez, and in the spirit that's on Israel appearing against Esau in Babylon, that is reverberating throughout all the strange countries our people are in captivity. And we're the majority, okay? So-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. You are the majority. And the so-called white man, you are the minority. You red Hebrew Edomites, you're the minority now. You're done. Okay? It says, what should be added is that even more than the USA, race and poverty are linked. Right, so you can look at it more. Right, pretty much it tells you, Esau. Right. Okay, let me go. Oh, I forgot about that part. All right, just as Maduro took office in 2013, the price of oil began its collapse, and the vast social programs that oil paid for were now paid for by borrowing money and printing it, causing wild inflation. The economic slide is now made impossibly worse by what then UN rapporteur for Venezuela compared to medieval sieges. The Trump administration cut off Venezuela from the oil sale proceeds from its biggest customer, the USA. Everyone has been hurt economically, but privileged class bank accounts have become nearly worthless. So knowing that the mestizo majority would not elect the great white hope, Guaido, the angry rich simply took to the streets, often armed, and yes, both sides are armed. I've seen this movie before when I look at today's news reports of massive demonstrations against the so-called dictatorship of Venezuela's government. Awfully like 2002 when I was first in Caracas reporting for BBC television. Then New York Times, NPR, and other mainstream outlets in the U.S. reported on marches against Chavez, government showing the tens of thousands of Venezuelans calling for Chavez's removal. But when I took my BBC cameras to the march with these protesters, they were clearly from light-skinned minority. They were also the wealthy, and they wanted you to know it. Many of the women marched in high heels. The men peacocked in business suits, proudly displayed in the uniforms of their privileged class. The Chavistas wore patriotic yellow, blue, and red T-shirts, sneaks, and jeans. Race was an issue as much as political philosophy. When I marched alongside the opposition demonstrators, they shouted, "Chavez, monkey," and worse. Many in the U.S. have never heard this story of race war in Venezuela. And war is what it is, as U.S. press does not recognize its own racial bias in 2002 as today. The massive demonstrations of whether Venezuelans were reported as evident that Chavez was wildly unpopular, yet The day after each anti-Chavez march, I would witness and film the pro-Chavez demonstrators that flooded Caracas with an ocean of nearly 500,000 marchers, overwhelmingly poor mestizos that received little or no coverage in the United States. All right, so let me play you this little clip right here. Because this is Abby Martin. When was this put up? 2017. Last year, you know, they've been going at it for a whole year against this guy Maduro. And you can see the opposition. Old Edomite woman. Okay, a lot of them look like they could be so-called Jews, crypto Jews, Amalekites.
Volver a retomar lo que era antes, pues.
And how many people have the government killed, security forces, military, police so far?
Han habido como más de como 200, menos, como 180.
Y que lo que queremos es que este régimen se largue del país junto con todos los seguidores para que en Venezuela venga la paz, la tranquilidad.
If you don't have money, if you have money, excuse me, because if you have money, you need medicine. You don't have where to buy it.
I have 27 years old and I'm married. And my wife, she doesn't buy anything that she wants to.
Damos un final feliz. Queremos el apoyo internacional e importante de los Estados Unidos, de Nueva York, para que nos ayuden sin cesar. Necesitamos que Estados Unidos afine su potencia hacia nosotros, va a ser bien recibida.
We are very near Plaza Altamira right.
They want the U.S. to go in there and intervene, man. Bomb their country smithereens. It shows you the state of the so-called white man, the red Hebrew Edomite. Right? He'd rather have everybody get killed with him, man. You damn devils. This is a 2nd Ezra 6 and 7. Then answered I and said, what shall be the parting asunder of the times? When shall be the end of the first and the beginning with that followeth? And he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Esau's hand held first the heel of Salakia. Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. The hand of man is betwixt the heel and the hand. Other question Ezra asked thou not. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. And this is exactly what it is. This is World War III. This is Armageddon coming up. And what's happening in Venezuela is just more proof of social unrest of what? Jacob versus Esau. And what's happening? Jacob's pulling you down by the heel. Okay? And that's the parting asunder of the times. This is the end of the first and the beginning of that follow, because this world that we're in, it's collapsing. And the spirit has it that Venezuela is a main point behind the collapse, because Venezuela makes all of its money off of oil, American oil. And American oil is completely wicked and evil. That's one of the so-called white man's strongholds. Okay, that fossil fuel, so to speak, so-called falsely so-called. All right. That because he uses that type of fuel that poisons the earth, and he controls it and forces everyone to use it. You know, these people, all of our people are slaves because of all these things he owns and uses upon you. And yeah, your brothers, you can check this out. It's just a bunch of wild Edomites, you know. Just dudes going out here. Just this guy right here. He's an entrepreneur.
but
Yeah,
told me
he's
to
an
only film
entrepreneur.
repression against them, not their actions. As the crowd grew, they announced they would be marching to block the major freeway. Protesters and squadrons of motorbikes began mobbing through the streets, setting fires and creating roadblocks along the way.
So we're here at the highway right now. We just talked to some protesters who said that they're blocking the highway. They just set up a barricade of fire. They're doing it down there. The National Guard is about to come, which they say they want us to see how they oppress them when they do come.
Stopping cars leaving the highway, they trapped drivers on the off-ramp. I talked to several in the heat of the offensive.
Por los momentos no ha hecho nada, pero por lo menos venimos a representar el día de hoy de que todavía no nos hemos quedado quietos, no nos hemos quedado tranquilos, todavía estamos en lucha por la libertad y lucha por esta dictadura que tenemos de 17 años.
How hard is it to live under a dictatorship?
Es bastante difícil porque no, tú como emprendedora no emprendes no para ti, sino para el gobierno. ¿Me entiendes? No puedes ser independiente. ¿Ves? Todo tu trabajo y tu esfuerzo es para el gobierno y eso es lo que no queremos aquí.
What is this? What are you carrying?
Esta es una trifácil. Esta es la que nos lanzan a nosotros.
Y con esto han matado compañeros de nosotros en el pecho y lo han impactado con esto. Y toda esa gente corrupta y enchufada se tiene que ir y presos tienen que ir.
And all these guys, they're all coked out, ready to fight, you know? So yeah, I'll put the link in the description. This is Jeremiah 49:10. But I have made Esau bare. I have uncovered his secret places, and he shall not be able to hide himself. His seed is spoiled, and his brethren and his neighbors he is not. That's right, Esau, you've been made bare, man. The jig is up. Everyone understands that. You're in Venezuela for the sole reason they get their oil. Okay? And if I'm not mistaken, this guy, Greg Palast, he was there for the coup in 2002. All right, where Chavez was kidnapped and held hostage. There was an actual TV crew inside. There's an actual TV crew inside the presidential palace during the time of the coup. And they recorded everything. Other than the Congress, we say the revolution. Yep, there it is right here. The revolution will not be televised. And if you could find, bros, if you could find it, watch it. Because they're doing this all over again, all right? The so-called white man. I remember Eustace Mullins, he brought it out in one of his, one of his videos. He said, speaking on the elites, the Rothschilds, he said they're not intelligent people, you know? They're not the smartest people in the world. They just control everything. They have a method, right? They have a way of doing things that seems to work, and they'll keep doing it if it keeps working. If it doesn't work, they'll figure something out. But really, they do the same thing over and over again. Why? Because the Most High has put it in people's spirit like that, the rule. Okay? And it's been like that. What even with other nations, okay, not just the Red Hebrew Edomite, but in this day and age, the Red Hebrew Edomite, this is what he does, okay. More specifically, Babylon, okay, America. So you watch this documentary, brothers. If you can find it. It says in April 2002, the democratically elected Venezuelan president Hugo Chavez faces a coup d'etat by an American-backed opposition party. The two-day coup fails to topple Chavez, but the tumultuous event proves to be great dramatic material for two Irish filmmakers who happen to be making a documentary about Chavez as the coup erupts. They captured footage of the massive opposition and pro-Chavez crowds and analyzed how Venezuelan TV manipulated images for propaganda purposes. So they're there showing you how a complete psyop can be operated, you know, behind the scenes of like a CIA operation. And this is like the perfect film for the scripture right here, you know. Bad mate ESAU Bear, I have uncovered his secret parts, and he should not be able to hide himself. His seed is spoiled, and his brethren and his neighbors, and he is not. And that's right. This guy can't hide himself anymore, man. He's through. He's exposed. Okay? This is Obadiah 1:6. How are the things of Esau searched out? How are the hidden things sought up? All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. And that's right. All these nations that you believe to be working with you, they're going to turn against you, okay? The rich Edomites, the rich red Hebrew Edomites living in Venezuela, okay? They're going to turn against so-called white man here in Babylon, all right? Everyone's going to come against America in that day, all right? But yeah, the case in point, what's happening in Venezuela is Jacob versus Esau, okay? The so-called white man, the red Hebrew Edomite, he's losing his power, okay? And who's replacing him? Who's coming up? Who's the next one in line? It's Jacob, the Israelites, okay? With that, I want to give all praise, glory, and honor. Yahweh Shem El Shai, Ba'ashem Rakal Kadash. Until next time, Shalom.